and gentlemen, welcome to a video where I am going to list 10 of the worst athletes I have watched play professional sports in my life. Now, 3 things need to be addressed before we get into this video. 1, every single person in this video that I am about to mention is way more athletic than me, way more talented than me, and way more successful than me, okay? I'm not saying I am better than any of these people because I am not. 2, I know for a fact that you guys will be able to statistically prove that every single one of these players are not in fact the worst player at their position or at their sport. I'm just giving my opinion from personally watching these players. I have found these guys to be terrible either their entire career or majority of the time I have watched them. And 3, don't forget to use code Wyatt'sWorld on G Fuel, Waggle, or Prize Picks. By using my codes on G Fuel or Waggle, you'll save a discount on any of their products, and by using it at sign up on Prize Picks, you're going to guarantee yourself to win a free $50 with your first $5 entry. Also, a quick reminder to anybody who is on Prize Picks or interested in playing at the NFL seasonal prediction windows have opened. These are all the current categories that you can play right now, but they will be adding more. And yes, for those that were asking last video if I'm going to do a video predicting players again, absolutely. But always remember to play responsibly, and let's get into the video. Okay, so starting off, we are going to have a more obvious athlete, one that I have talked about time and time again and how terrible they are, and that is none other than Alexander Madison, former running back for the Vikings, former running back for the Raiders, and now on the Miami Dolphins. Man, I watched this guy for years in Minnesota, and when he first came in as a backup for Dalvin Cook, there was some speculation that he might not be that bad. And then the more we got to see him play and the more opportunities he got, especially with Dalvin, you know, missing time a few times a year, he showed cracks, and not good cracks. This guy was one of the most unproductive runners I had ever watched. He had no vision, he's not very quick, and the guy couldn't truck through a picket fence if he wanted. This guy started 13 games for the Vikings 2 years ago, and he didn't have a single rushing touchdown. I'll never forget the game versus Seattle that he lost for the Vikings, like probably 3 years ago at this point too. End of the game, Vikings were charging down the field. It was 4th and inches, I think at the 5. Madison takes the snap, there's a gap big enough to fit Vince Wilfork through it, but what does he do? Runs into our fucking tackle. Like, what? That was the exact moment that I knew he was ass. Now moving on, we have Josh, the chosen one, Rosen. This fucking guy just couldn't get it right, dude. Also, I'm reading his full name right now, Joshua Ballinger Lippincott Rosen. Probably has something to do with why he was so bad. Now, to be fair, Josh Rosen, he never really got a fair shot in the league. But at the same time, he also was just bad, and I mean, at the time that he was drafted, I thought he was kind of an arrogant dickhead, too. It doesn't matter what system you put this guy in, he was absolutely putrid. Completion percentage never above 55%. He was a turnover monster. Out of his 16 starts, he had an interception or more in 10 of those games. I'll never forget the last time I saw him with the damn Falcons. He didn't start a game, but he did appear in 3 of them, throwing a pick in 2 of them. Like, I understand if he lost his confidence, but like, there is nothing he could have done at the end of his career to revive himself. I mean, he went from team to team to team to team to team. And there was just never any success for Josh Rosen because at the end of the day, he was flat out fucking horrible. Now flipping over to the MLB, give me Joey Gallow. I mean, dude. This guy has played professional baseball since 2015. And out of his 2,800 at-bats, this man has struck out damn near 1,300 times. For reference on that, you guys know Max Kepler. He's on the Phillies right now. He was a Minnesota Twin since 2015. Been in the league the same amount of times as Joey Gallow. Okay, Kepler, he's not great. He's just your average Joe. Okay, he has had 3,908 at-bats. He has had 1,000 more at-bats than Joey Gallow. And he has only struck out 825 fucking times. Joey Gallow's career batting average is a $194. The guy had a cannon for an arm, but it's not like he was some tremendous ass fielder, and he could draw some walks, but outside of that or hitting a bomb 1 out of every 10 at-bats, the guy is damn near useless to have on your team. I remember when the Twins finally got rid of Miguel Sano, who almost made this list. I was so happy, and what did they do? They went and signed the only guy with a higher strikeout rate than him, and that was Joey Gallow. This guy is nothing other than a glorified beer league softball player, and he's trying to pitch now too. Okay, so now we're moving on to one of my two NBA players that I have on this list, and I know these are going to get eye rolls and these are going to get groans, and I also know that both of these guys were decent players at one point in their career, but ever since I have watched them, well, they have been really bad. So anyway, the first of the two NBA players, and the second one I'll name later if I haven't mentioned that already, we have Kyle Kuzma. Look, I know shooting in basketball is only half the battle. Playing defense is a whole nother one. Now, while I don't think Kuzma is a tremendous defender, I would say he's probably better at defense than shooting because this guy has to be the most inconsistent and unproductive shooter I have watched. He was so fucking ass versus the Pacers in the playoffs. He had one of those games where he played over 20 minutes and he didn't record a single statistic. This guy's free throw percentage on the year was 63% and on his career, 72. Look, I know he's an NBA champion. He won it with the Lakers how many years ago? Then he went to Washington. And then this year ended up on Milwaukee with the trade involving Chris Middleton. And I really don't mean to let recency bias play into this because like I've always not been a fan of the dude as long as I've been watching. However, he was like historically shit in the postseason this year. That was the nail in the coffin for me. Moving on to the next, we are back to the NFL with Deshaun Kaiser. Yeah, that's a name you probably haven't heard in a while. And for good reason, too. That guy was so ass. This guy only played 2 years in the NFL, and only one of them he actually played. The other one he just sat on Green Bay's bench. But the year he was a starter, he was with Cleveland. And out of 15 starts, this man went 0-15, had a completion percentage of 53.6, threw 11 touchdowns to 22 picks, which might I add to this, I think 4 or 5 of those picks might be the most ugly interceptions you will ever watch, so I highly recommend YouTubing them, and finished with a passer rating of 60.5. Also, I looked, he did get to play in Green Bay. He got to play in 3 games, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, completion percentage of 47%. He was not only the dumbest quarterback I have ever seen, but he was the most inefficient quarterback I have ever seen. There was absolutely nothing about this guy that was productive, and he was like tall too. I want to say he was 6'3". Might have even been taller than that, but he couldn't even use his size to his advantage. He was fucking ass. He was so ass. Deshaun Kaiser is one of the worst athletes I've ever watched, and I could not mean that more. Now moving on, we have a wide receiver in the NFL, and I honestly kind of feel bad naming this because I've talked about this guy a lot recently, but when I was making this list, I couldn't quit thinking of him. And that person is none other than Trayon Burks. And I know his trade makes it look a whole lot worse because of the whole AJ Brown flip-flop thing, but if you just look at Trayon Burks, if you watch the guy play, he is really bad. Matter of fact, this year before his knee injury, he was one of 75 players at the time to log 66 snaps. Out of those 75 players, he ranked dead last in yards, percentage of targets caught, receptions, yards after catch, drop rate, and passer rating while targeted. Dead last in every one of those. You cannot defend that. I'm sorry. He was terrible. The guy just doesn't do shit. It's not like he's a crazy fast guy. It's not like he's an athletic freak. He gets paid millions of dollars to basically run around and do this. Back to the MLB, give me Chris Davis from the Orioles. I also want to specify Chris Davis after 2013, and I will explain this. Now, this one's sad to talk about because Chris Davis, the first half of his career, he was solid. He always struck out, but he also hit the ball fairly well, carried a decent average. One year, he hit 50 home runs, then got signed to a monster contract. If you don't know how baseball contracts work, they're big. And I should say I'm in duration when I say that. Baseball players do make really good money, and especially back for the time, he was making good money because he got a 7-year contract for $161 million, so $23 million a year. And this guy went on to play the worst 7-year stretch I think a person could fucking imagine. He struck out over 190 times in a year, 4 times, where 2 of those were also above 200. 2 of those I also believe he led the league in strikeouts. Chris Davis recorded the longest hitless streak in MLB history. 54 straight at-bats. He did not get a hit. The guy had to fight for his life to keep his average above 200, and you know, the worst part about it all, but the most telling part about it all, is he just didn't even look like the same player, and that's why, you know, I'm gonna call him one of the worst players I've ever seen, because he was not even close to the Chris Davis he was. If I had to guess what happened, is he tried to change his mechanics because he felt obligated to do more with that contract, and he ended up changing it for the worse, and it just made him into the most awkward looking hitter you have ever seen. Go look up Chris Davis highlights from like 2018. You're gonna look at that swing and go, he hit 50 home runs in a year. It was hard to watch too, because I mean, there was Red Sox fans writing him letters trying to like encourage him, which is extremely nice, but kind of like Josh Rosen in a way. Like, just nothing he could have done at the end there I think could have saved him. Chris Davis was just a train wreck after 2013. Moving on, we have a former Bills quarterback, and it is none other than Nathan Peterman. If Deshaun Kaiser isn't the worst quarterback, this guy is. It was a cold day back in November of 2017. I remember it very well. Me being the biggest Tyrod Taylor fan in the world was enjoying life as the Bills were pushing for a playoff run. The first one in 18 years, might I add. And then Wyatt gets an update on his phone saying that Sean McDermott has decided to bench Tyrod Taylor for Nathan Peterman as they were going to face the Chargers. I remember tweeting a book of very vulgar things that probably would not fly in today's world. And then before I knew what streaming was, which I've definitely never done before, I put my laptop in front of my face and just had the play-by-play fantasy score up. This fucking guy threw 5 fucking interceptions in 3 quarters, under 3 quarters of play actually. And they weren't good picks, might I add. They were ass. I was just refreshing Twitter watching these hideous fucking things over and over again. Then the dipshit still played for a couple weeks for whatever reason. Tyrod finally came back. We ended up making the playoffs. Thank you, Tyler Boyd. And then Buffalo went on to have one of the most disgustingly boring, worst playoff games I've ever seen versus Jacksonville, where they lost 10-3. But about this game, they had a potential game-tying drive at the end. Tyrod got hurt, so who comes in? Nate the Great, and what does he do? Throws a fucking pick! Nathan Peterman is ass. Moving on, we got my other NBA one, and this is gonna piss a lot of people off, I think, but Ben Simmons. Look, I know this guy is an elite defender. I know when he first started playing basketball with Philadelphia, he was a rookie of the year, he was a 3-time All-Star, he was a 2-time All-Defense elect, and he could actually score points. And then some shit happened. This is kind of right when I was starting to get into the NBA a little bit, and he wasn't playing for Philadelphia. I think he was holding out, to be honest. He didn't want to play there anymore. But he was also hurt, and then he got traded to the Nets, where, you know, he was really supposed to contribute and be this final piece that they needed back when they had KD and Kyrie and I think even James Harden for a little bit. And ever since then, man, I swear this has been one of the most miserable players to watch in the NBA. Okay, we know his offense is terrible, but it's one thing to, like, you know, actively try and score points. Kuzma at least does that. Ben Simmons, the guy won't shoot the ball. There could be a wide open basket 5 feet in front of him, and instead of shooting the ball, he's gonna look for someone to throw it to. And I get it, he's probably scared because he's fucking ass at shooting and he doesn't want to continue to get roasted, but like, you gotta try and find a way to score points. You used to be pretty good at it. Like, I can't stand watching this guy play, and I've always had it out for him ever since he first got traded to the Nets. And they were gonna make the playoffs, and they just kept teasing, you know, Ben, we're not gonna play him in the regular season, we're not gonna play him, we're gonna rest him, he'll be there for the playoffs. And I think they made it through the first series, and they're like, we're gonna wait for the second one. And I want to say they might have even made it through the second one, and this could have been the one where KD's foot was on the line, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. But the guy never ended up fucking playing. The camera just kept showing him on the sidelines, just Kelsey plumbing it with his eyes. Like, come on, dude, you got what you wanted, you got out of Philly, now get your ass in the game. I think Ben Simmons sucks. And ending the list, and this isn't some crazy I saved the best for last situation. I realize I didn't really do that. This is just gonna be a really random running back from a few years ago, but Payton Barber. Does anybody remember him when he was on Tampa Bay? This guy was absolute dog shit. I mean, this guy was essentially a glorified Alexander Madison, dude. He also had a full season, you know, a full 16 games at the time to go. And while he did score 5 touchdowns in that year, he was one of the most unproductive runners I followed. And the reason I know that is because I was a dumbass who drafted him in fantasy. He had 1 week, that entire season was versus the Giants, where he actually played well because fantasy, I remember it. I think I won because of him. But outside of that, he might have been the most vanilla running back I've ever put my eyes on. The amount of times that guy had almost 20 carries and finished under 50 rushing yards is nauseating to even think about. And then even when they tried to extend his career by having him split carries with Ronald Jones, I mean, honestly, I don't think Ronald Jones was all that bad, but Payton Barber continued to make matters worse by just putting on some of the most dog shit performances known to man. He was a battering ram, and that's pretty much all he was good for. Payton Barber catching strays in 2025 was probably not on your agenda, but that guy was shit. And that is gonna do it, ladies and gentlemen, for 10 of the worst athletes I have ever seen. Please feel free to let me know players you agree with, disagree with, players that I might have left off. But most importantly, if you enjoyed the video, please show support because I really appreciate it. In the meantime, I'm gonna get this edited so you guys can watch it all. I hope you have a fantastic Monday. I will see you in the next video.